let Ashley tell you about them.
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. There are two changes to the agenda, so this was forwarded on to council yesterday. Item 8.4.1, Schedule A and B were revised, and item 8.5.1, there was an attachment added.
Okay, thank you. So the agenda as prepared for the May 21st, 2025 meeting of council of the Township of Perth East be approved as amended. Moved by Bob, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. If you have pecuniary interest, you can disclose that now or as our meeting goes along. Under our consent agenda, we have 13 items. Is there anything anyone would like pulled or they have questions on them? Andrew?
Thank you, Margaret. I'd like to see if we want to support 5.17 and 5.18, the two letters from our relative neighbors on the Strong Mare issue.
Okay, you'd like them pulled. Anyone else have anything? Bob?
My favorite topic, impact, so 5.1.10.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay, then we have a motion that items 5.1.1 to 5.1.13 as set out on the consent agenda for the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting of council be received for information with the exception of 5.1.10, 5.1.7, and 5.1.8, which would be introduced separately, and that the minutes of May 6th regular meeting of council be adopted. Moved by Jerry, second by Andrew. All in favor? Carried. Hey, Andrew, do you want to speak to 7 and 8?
Yes, thank you, Margaret. We saw this last meeting and I'm seeing it again. It seems to be some good points raised. Yeah, I would like to see if council would like to support these two resolutions from the other neighboring municipalities.
So you're moving that? Do we have a seconder? Hugh? Do we have any comments or questions? Nope. Okay. All in favor of support? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and 5.10, Bob?
Well, the 2016 assessment's a little out of date. I know this government has not been interested in renewing this, but I would think that it would be appropriate to remind them again that it's our pastime and simplest for us to take the initiative. I would like to see us support that and put our name in this going forward. AMO and our MPP have been copied, so I don't think it hurt to rattle the chain.
Okay, so you want to move that?
Yes,
support? Okay, do we have a seconder? Jerry? Comments or questions? All those in favor to support? Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to presentations. We have no public presentations. We have no other presentations. We have no delegations. We have no public meetings and no public hearings. We'll move down to our first report, and that's under planning. And it's an application for extension of a draft plan of subdivision approval and revisions to subdivision on Reed's Heritage Home. So we have Jeff with us tonight. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
The floor is yours.
So the property is located on the north side of Mill Street West between the settlement boundary and William Street. It's municipally known as 44 Mill Street West, and the application is intended to extend the existing subdivision approval for a period of 2 years and to make minor revisions to the approved draft plan of subdivision to modify the single, detached, and semi-detached building lots. The existing draft plan of subdivision includes 9 single detached lots, 10 semis, and 7 lots that are either going to be singles or semi-detached dwellings, 7 multi-unit residential blocks, and an open space block. The subject lands, as mentioned, they're located on the west side of Milverton, and they have frontage on Mill Street West and Macbeth Street, and the total lot area of the subdivision is 5.72 hectares. The lands are subject to a draft plan of subdivision, which was approved in May of 1993 by the Minister of Municipal Affairs. A lapse date of June 15th of 2022 was added to conditions of draft approval after the original approval. And then a lapse date was extended for another 3 years by council on April 7th, 2022. The approval to sever the industrial portion of 54 Mill Street was granted on July 28th of 2003. The subdivision has not been registered yet, and the extension is needed to allow the developer to make changes to the plan that allows them to have greater flexibility in determining the residential lot sizes that meet the needs of the residents in Milverton. Property is designated as serviced urban area in the official plan and highway commercial and residential in the Milverton Ward official plan. Proposed subdivision development is considered to be an efficient use of the land, resources, and infrastructure and provides for a range of housing types in Milverton. There's capacity in the existing infrastructure to service the draft plan, and the proposed development continues to provide for a housing option that meets the needs of residents in the area. Owner of the subject lands has requested that the previously approved plan requested changes to that. Those changes include the combining of lots into blocks. This allows for greater flexibility to determine future lot sizes. The applicant has also noted that the change of lots to blocks allow for potential reduction in lot widths of the single and semi-detached dwellings and those building lots. And then that developer would still be required to meet the existing zoning regulations and receive approval for part lot control applications in order to develop those blocks that are going to be created through this application. Existing medium density zone R2-3 with a holding provision allows for a minimum front yard depth of 6.3 meters, which is measured from the closest boundary of the turning circle block, and shall be 7.5 meters from the north side of the turning circle block. The holding provision in each of the zones requires the registration of a subdivision agreement before development can occur. Subject lands are appropriately zoned and for the mix of uses and range of residential densities that are being proposed. Proposed changes to the plan of subdivision results in need to modify 3 conditions of the previously approved draft plan. The rest of the draft plan of subdivision conditions remain in effect and are also required to be fulfilled prior to the registration of the plan. Based on the age of the original draft plan of subdivision approval and the previous request for lapse date extensions, if the applicant pursues a further extension to the draft plan of subdivision before the lapse date of June 15th of 2027 with no additional progress, it is likely that planning staff will not be able to support that additional request. So in conclusion, the draft plan of subdivision subject to the updated conditions is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms with intent of the official plans. Subject lands have been previously designated and zoned and are appropriate for the draft plan. Staff are supportive of the proposed changes to the approved draft plan of subdivision, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. I just want to note that we do have Caroline Baker with us tonight too as the agent for this subdivision, so welcome, Caroline. So if there's any questions of council, they can be directed to Jeff or perhaps Caroline if need be. Any questions? No questions, okay. So we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East Council receive the report dated May 21st, 2025, entitled Application for Extension of Draft Plan of Subdivision Approval and Revisions to Draft Plan of Subdivision submitted on behalf of Reed's Heritage Home affecting lands described as Part Lot 416, Registered Plan 363, Milverton Ward in the Township of Perth East, municipally known as 44-54 Mill Street West, and the Township of Perth East Council provide a recommendation to the Perth County Council that the application for extension of the draft plan of subdivision approval for 31T-92001 to extend the approval from June 15, 2025 to June 15, 2027, submitted on behalf of Reed's Heritage Home affecting lands described above be approved, subject to the original conditions of the subdivision approval with revisions to the following conditions. And one condition is that this approval applies to the draft plan 31261-22 prepared by Van Harten Surveying Inc. dated April 9, 2025, which shows a total of 4 residential blocks, 1 block for multi-unit residential, 2 turning circle blocks, 2 blocks for 0.3 meter reserves, and 1 storm water management block, hereafter referred to as a draft plan as attached as Schedule A. The second one is the subdivision agreement between the municipality and the owner shall provide that a warning be affixed to each and every offer, purchase, and sale for blocks 3 and 4. Such warning shall advise of the presence of a nearby agricultural livestock operation, and that such operation may, from time to time, create conditions under which the normal enjoyment of residential property may be impaired. Notes to draft approval. Number 1, the draft plan approval for this development is a period of 2 years and shall lapse on June 15, 2027. The owner shall apply for any extension at least 90 days prior to the lapsing date. There is no authority to reactivate after the lapsing date. It is the owner's responsibility to obtain a council resolution for extension of the draft. I need a mover and a seconder for all that. Moved by Jeremy, second by Amanda. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on. We have no reports from the CAO. Under the clerk, we have the first one is the St. Peter's Lutheran Church ownership for request to transfer the cemetery. Ashley?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Agats. This is a follow-up request from correspondence that council received to take over the cemetery here in Milverton. It is an inactive cemetery, and they currently do not have any care maintenance funds to provide to the township, and they don't have any records. The cemetery was established several years ago. The bereavement authority didn't have on record the exact date of when that even happened. It's that old. So staff are recommending, given the closure of the church, it was volunteers, to our understanding, that were providing lawn maintenance and other maintenance to that area, that would be transferred to the township of Perth East. So also outlined in the reports, this is reflective of this cemetery and the next report on the agenda, but not to jump ahead. There are 2 options, mainly when it comes to a request for the township to take over cemetery ownership. The first one is on page 2 of the report, but the township could say no, that they do not want to take over the transfer and have the cemetery go through the full abandonment process, which would go through the court system. During that time, if it is abandoned, then the township does have to maintain that cemetery, even if we don't have ownership or end up taking over ownership. In conversations with the bereavement authority, they do recommend that the township does take over these abandoned cemeteries or potential abandoned cemeteries if there is no other avenues for the cemeteries or churches to seek other ownership. So this is a Lutheran church, and in conversations with the requester, there was no other options for a Lutheran church or another church to take over ownership of this cemetery. And I will try to, or sorry, one more thing. The estimated cost in maintenance for the cemetery is about $400 a year. And that's just in comparison of the size of it to some of the other inactive cemeteries that we have. It's roughly what the budget item is. So it would add roughly $400 a year. That would cover insurance, grass cutting, and maintenance. I will try to answer any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the report? No questions? Okay. We have a motion that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church, Milverton Transfer of Ownership Request, CLE-2025-12, dated May 21st, 2025, prepared by the Manager of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk for information, and further that Council approve the transfer request submitted by St. Peter's Lutheran Church for the Township to become the owner and the operator of a cemetery located on William Street, Milverton, CM-2003059, which includes ownership of the cemetery lands, and further that staff be directed to work with the Township Legal Counsel, the Cemetery Board, and the Bereavement Authority of Ontario to complete the transfer. Moved by Amanda, second by Jeremy. All those in favor? Carried. The next report is the Zion United Church Cemetery in Roswell. Ashley?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Eggets. So as I had just mentioned in the previous report, the options that council has with requests like this is slightly different because it is an active cemetery. There are 92 plots still remaining for purchase, and there's 28 plots that have been sold that are not yet occupied. So there are deeds for the people that own those plots. There is a care and maintenance fund that would be transferred over to the township. The recommendation for this one as well, in conversations with the requester, they had tried to see if there was any other cemeteries or churches that would take over ownership, and there was not any. So we're recommending the process or the cemetery be transferred to the township. The estimated costs for budget is roughly $4,000 a year, and that is comparing to our cemeteries of similar size that are active, and the information that we've been provided with them averaging 2 burials a year. With this one, if council does decide to move forward with the transfer, when dealing with the representatives, we could request that a transfer occur over a year period. Those are things that would need to be looked at after we get the direction to council that they would like to seek ownership, but it doesn't need to happen immediately, so we can see what their processes were, what their documents are. They do have documents to provide to us, and they do have deeds that have been purchased. People have purchased them. Their bylaw is slightly different than our bylaw as well. They currently allow more cremated remains and remains in a plot than what we do at our cemeteries. So there would be a few things that would need to be worked out in those conversations. And then a bylaw would need to be brought back forward to this council for their approval, because this is an active cemetery. So council will need to approve it. We would need to amend our current bylaw that covers the 4 other active cemeteries. And then the bereavement authority also needs to review the policy with their rules as well. So there is a few more steps involved with the transfer for this active cemetery. And I will try to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Questions of the report? Excuse me, no questions? Then we have oh, sorry, Bob.
More like comments. Obviously, as volunteers continue to disappear, we're gonna have more of these cemeteries to take over. I guess my concern is with the added work that at some point you'll say, I need to hire another person to look after, the dog park and the cemeteries. It's noted here, but it's main point, I guess. But just so that we're aware, the more work that we take on, the more expensive our taxpayers will put the bill for. The bylaws, I would like to see them all the same rather than having one cemetery this way and one another way. Is there a possibility that we can incorporate them the same, or are they opposed to any changes to the existing bylaw?
Initial conversations, they aren't opposed, but they also are ready to pass the cemetery over. So whatever rules we kind of put forward. The only thing is the 28 plots that have already been purchased, we would maybe need to look at grandfathering those specific ones in. Just in dealings with our other active cemeteries, often families purchase 1 or 2 plots with the intention that husband and wife or kids, it's a family plot or a family area. So if they purchase them thinking they can have 2 more cremated remains on site than what we allow, and there's not a plot available for purchase beside the plot that they currently own, we might run into some more awkward conversations when families are dealing with this typically at more sensitive times. So that may be one consideration, but it would be most ideal moving forward to have all the bylaws the same. It could become confusing even in 10 years from now. That's
Okay, anyone else? Gary?
Yeah, so I'm in favor of transfer, but then making it a year process? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily have to be in the resolution. That is something that we can propose to them during the transfer. The transfer I don't anticipate will happen quickly. We are recommending that they transfer the land to us as well. So even a land transfer, working with our solicitor does take a little bit of time, and then drafting the bylaw, having it reviewed by council and by the bereavement authority, and then getting all of the documents transferred over. It is a transition period that I would take over a longer period of time.
Okay, anyone else? Just maybe along the line of what Bob was saying, some of these churches are being sold, and it would be really nice if they gave the township some money to help run these cemeteries. They don't have to do that, but it still would be kind of nice if that, as Bob said, we may someday have to hire another employee to look after these. So anyway, if no more questions, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Zion United Church Cemetery Rostock Transfer of Ownership Request CLE-2025-13 dated May 21st, 2025, prepared by the Manager of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk for information, and further that Council approve the transfer request submitted by the Zion United Church Cemetery for the Township to become the owner and operator of a cemetery located at 4944 Perth Road 135 Rostock, CM-2003035, which includes ownership of the cemetery lands, and further that staff be directed to work with the Township Legal Counsel, the Cemetery Board, and the Bereavement Authority of Ontario to complete the transfer. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Okay, our next report is keeping of backyard chickens. Ashley?
Okay, thanks, Mayor Rigetts. So this is a follow-up report from the council meeting of April 8th. Staff were directed to proceed with initiating a pilot program for temporary basis up to 2 years minimum for the keeping of backyard chickens. Just some points through the report and the bylaw. The time period right now that's recommended, and that's pending approval of tonight, would be July 1st, 2025, ending June 30th, 2027. So we do have posts for social media drafted, and application forms all about those packages together that would be released, and applications would come forward, they would be reviewed and then approved up to 20 licenses. The section 6, the last point, staff, when reviewing the draft bylaw, had recommended that if the setbacks can't be met, then the requirement for the neighbor being consent would be filled out. There would be a form that we would ask that the neighbor fill out in support of the chicken coop being closer to their property line. Initially, we were thinking we would try to get all neighbors support, but in looking at some areas within hamlets and villages in the township, it could become quite cumbersome to staff to try to manage getting signatures from all the property owners and keeping track of that ownership changes and that sort of thing. So we are recommending to just go forward with, if the setbacks can't be met, then the neighbors provide consent. And then other than that, I'll just try to answer any questions if there's any. And Wes is here if there's any specific bylaw enforcement questions. So we've both taken a look at the bylaw and hopefully we've captured everything. Yes, we will try to answer questions.
Okay, Amanda?
Just 2 questions for me. I also noticed that there's the budgetary impact that was captured here, and I don't recall us, and perhaps I'm wrong, I don't recall in the pilot motion that we expected a fee, that we would be charging people a $75 fee. So I don't remember that being captured in the options when it was brought to council when the motion was moved. So just wanted to flag that. It seems pretty hefty to me, that I understand the rationale, absolutely, but I just think that's pretty hefty to be keeping chickens. I don't think people in a rural area would be like, I don't think we're going to get any uptake on that, if I'm being honest with you. That I think is a deterrent on its own. And then my other question is, how do we deal with people who currently have the chickens? Are they going to be approached to be part of the pilot? Like, how is that being? How are we dealing with those people that currently have them? And maybe we don't have a good answer, but I just wanted to flag those two things.
Okay, so the first comment about the fee, so it was not in the motion, but it was in the staff report that we would recommend there be a fee to recoup some of staff costs. No, and we've just put in what we're recommending a fee is. Council, it's their bylaw that we'll just be enforcing, so if they don't want a fee or if you think it needs to change, that can be looked at. That's staff's recommendation to try to recoup some of the hourly wage that would be spent on bylaw and clerk's department and any other staff that will need to review the application. And then the dealing with people that currently have chickens, Weston, maybe let you answer how those will be dealt with.
Thank you for the question, Councilor Godhagen. So we did have that come up with how that would have to be enforced. And I spoke to a bylaw officer who had some experience with this. So it would be a Part 3 summons. The violation would be a violation of the Planning Act under the zoning bylaw, which doesn't permit you to have farm animals on residential properties. So that would be how it would have to be dealt with there. And actually the bylaw officer was nice enough to send me the example that was used in a slideshow for that. So that was our understanding of how someone who's currently has chickens and it isn't permitted, how it would have to be dealt with. Obviously that would happen after a letter, and the kind of response we would have would just be like to get rid of the chickens, obviously. But ultimately, if they weren't gonna give them up, that would be how you would have to proceed with the charge.
So, but to be clear, we wouldn't. This would be based on complaint basis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions, Jerry?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I think the fee should be $200. Sign up. Just two questions. Consent from the neighbors. We know how properties are changing hands much often these days. What would be the process if another neighbor or someone else purchased the property beside? I assume that would be part of the deal with the realtor, that they didn't know about the table or some sort of notification. Excuse me. And the other thing, the answer is what if we got something in place at the end of June 30th, 2027, if this goes through, what's to happen after the year?
Okay. So to answer your first question, we would be working with our tax department. So the properties that are licensed would be known. We would know internally who's licensed. So if there is a sale, so we receive information from impact on this property sale, that it could be flagged at that point in time that there's a change in the neighbors. And then after the 2-year mark, I don't have a 100% answer. It would depend how the pilot program would go forward. So either a recommendation from staff with changes on what's working in the bylaw, what isn't working in the bylaw. Are the coops big enough? Are they not big enough? Do people want more chickens? There may be some feedback that we would be looking for from the approved applicants throughout the project or throughout the pilot program. And If there isn't an uptake, or if we see that we have an increased number of bylaw complaints, that is going to be brought forward to council to determine whether they want to move forward with permanently implementing backyard chickens through licensing or not licensing. So,
Okay, anyone else? Jeremy?
So, so new neighbor doesn't want chickens. This is something that's already part of the existing property. They're stuck with that, or can they come back and say, I don't want my neighbor to have backyard chickens? Like, you're purchasing the property knowing that this is occurring next door. I think you're kind of, bound to that, but I'm curious how that would work. Are we seeking then the permission of the new neighbor?
yes, we would be looking to have permission from the new neighbor. So when we license dog kennels, for example, we have a 8.5 by 11 sheet. It's nothing fancy, but we do have a license that we ask that they have displayed. So part of the pilot program as well would be to have that posted. And hopefully they would know, the neighbors, when they're circling through, that they do have chickens. But yes, that is something that we may have to work out through the pilot program. If there is a lot of neighbors or residences changing hands and there's feedback that they don't want chickens from the new neighbors and they were allowed previously, what that looks like internally.
I just want to quickly highlight that the neighbor consent is only required for setback. So there wouldn't be neighbor consent.
So yeah, we are asking that they are 1.2 meters from the rear lot line, 2.5 meters from a side lot line, and then 2.5 meters from a rear lot line abutting the side yard. So they have to meet both of those setbacks.
Andrew?
Thank you, Marigat. So is the proposed fee is one time or yearly, like a dog tag? One time?
Yeah, at this point in time for the pilot program, it's
Okay.
just for one-time fee.
And all property standards currently in place, tidy yards, all that is still in place, and it will
Yeah.
cover anything, any spill off from the sides of
Mhm.
this grass cutting and site limits.
Yeah, all of our other bylaws, noise, property standards, tidy yards, they are all still in effect as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we do have a motion. We'll see where it goes. And the motion is that the Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled The Keeping of Backyard Chickens, CLE-2025-14, dated May 22nd, 2025, prepared by the Manager of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk for information. And further, that Council give 3 readings to Bylaw 24-2025, being a bylaw to implement a 2-year pilot program to regulate and license the keeping of backyard chickens within the Township of Perth East, beginning on July 1st, 2025, and ending on June 30th, 2027. And further, that the set fines for the bylaw 24-2025 for keeping of backyard chickens be approved, and with final approval given by the Ministry of Attorney General's Office, and further that staff be directed to report back to council regarding the pilot program. We have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Hugh, second by Andrew. Questions, comments, Jerry?
Yep, just for clarification. So obviously if this motion goes through, then we'll carry on with the pilot project. If by chance the motion is defeated, just for clarification, we go back to our old bylaw, which doesn't allow chickens. However, Perth County official plan allows them. Just a point of clarification on them. I know we did talk a little bit about it last week. nailed here.
So this pilot program, the report before this report directed staff to apply for an OP amendment, official plan amendment, and a zoning bylaw amendment. So to allow the keeping of backyard chickens. Council did look at rescinding that last meeting and that motion was lost. So if this motion does not move forward and I would be looking for direction on the initial keeping of backyard chickens. And where we're at, we've been directed to allow the keeping of chickens. This is the way that we are going to allow them. So
Okay, any other questions, Jeremy?
Just a comment. So in the past, I haven't really been in favor of the backyard chicken idea, and we did as a group make the decision to put staff time into drafting a bylaw to allow them and to be regulated. So at this point, I do see that this is the best way to regulate the idea of backyard chickens. And we have asked staff to proceed in this manner.
Okay, anyone else? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, and then our next report is the strong mayor powers. Ashley?
okay, thanks, Mayor. So this is just an information report for council members. So as of May 1st, 2025, there was an amendment to the Municipal Act regarding special powers and duties of the head of council, and the Township of Perth East was one of the municipalities that received this. They were given to members of council or townships that had councils larger than 7 members. So the report highlights the summary of what the powers are, what can be directed to staff, what can be delegated back to council or to the CAO, and then powers that cannot be delegated. A lot of this works around the provincial prescribed priorities, which at this point in time, the province has established as building 1.5 million new residential units by December 31st, 2031, and constructing and maintaining infrastructure to support housing, including transit, roads, utilities, and servicing. The province can at any point in time change their provincial priorities. That currently is what they are. In the report, it was mentioned that mayoral decisions and directives would be added to our website. Currently, only the decisions will be posted on our website. There is one decision that Mayor Agates has made, and it is posted on our website. Directives are sent to myself and the CAO, and we, in having conversations with the mayor, will circulate those to the council members as well, just for their information of what has been directed to staff. The budget process will change moving forward. There are requirements that, or there is no room for that to be delegated back to staff or to all of council. So the flow of how that is going to look for the 2026 budget process will look slightly different, and the treasurer and CAO and the mayor and I have met a couple of times in trying to narrow down dates and what the new flow will need to look like to make sure we're complying with legislation and still meeting the needs of what the mayor would like. I will leave it at that. I think I'll try to answer any questions or hypothetical questions, and yeah, if there's any that are directed to me.
Okay, Amanda?
Just a couple comments, because I know we had a motion earlier on tonight, and I just want to get clarity, and I'm fairly certain of this. So my understanding is that the mayor has accepted the mayoral powers. We can't, once they accept the mayoral powers, we can't take it away. So even though we voted against the mayoral powers, that's a moot point. So I just want people to understand that. So the only way that the mayor can reject the strong mayoral powers and give the power back to the council. But if they don't give it up, council doesn't get to decide that. That is literally the whole point of strong mayoral powers. So I just want to make sure that that's clarified. The only way that the strong mayorals can be taken away is if the mayor doesn't meet the housing targets, like the provincial objectives, then the Minister of Housing can take them away. So as long as they're meeting the targets over time, the powers remain. So I just want to make sure that people that's clarified. My understanding is the mayor accepted the strong mayoral powers, so we can't take them. Council can't take them away because we just had that and it happened so quickly. I didn't offer comments earlier, but I just want to make sure that is my understanding of the legislation, having read it. So I just want to make sure people fully understand that. So I just wanted to flag that, and I don't know if the mayor has any comments herself, and maybe I'm speaking on behalf of the mayor, but that was my understanding, and I just want to seek clarification because I'm fairly certain that that is the case.
Go ahead.
So yes, it was an OREG that was passed down to the additional 168 municipalities. So having a motion sent to the province or to other people that were not in support of the strong mayor powers does, like Councillor Broadhagen said, does not mean that we no longer have them. So we have the strong mayor powers, we as in the Township of Northeast, unless there is a change from the province to remove those. And in the report, there is items that may be delegated and there is items that cannot be delegated. So the only way those would revert back to former processes is if the province removes the Township of Perth East from having strong mayor powers.
Okay, other questions, Jeremy?
My understanding wasn't about accepting or rejecting the powers. The mayor has them, or whether she decides to exercise them is up to her. It's not about accepting or rejecting. Like, you can't reject these powers that are given.
The
She
mayor
can just decline to use
the
them.
mayor, so there's two ways, is my understanding it. They can just, you can have the powers and just, you can choose to use them or not, which is the vast majority, or a mayor can give them back to council. There's been numerous mayors that have said, I'm rejecting this. I'm they basically make a public stance, but technically they have the powers. But if so let me clarify. So there are councils that have a discussion and the mayor says, look, I'm not going to be accepting these or exercising them. And so then that's the process that they follow so that they bring everything to council. But there are also some mayors that accept the powers, and sometimes they use the powers and sometimes they don't. So I just wanted to make sure, everything happened so quickly earlier on in the night. I just wanted to make sure people understood that us saying I don't like the strong mayoral powers doesn't mean that they're going away from here. So if that was crystal clear for everyone, that's great. I just wanted to offer some comments on that. Because the motion happened very quickly and I didn't say anything. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that.
So are you suggesting that a mayor can reject them,
Yeah.
and they create a bylaw that says the mayor is rejecting the powers and cannot use them?
No, they just choose not to
Right.
use
So
them.
it's not about accepting and rejecting them. It's she has them. It's whether she decides to use them, and whether we make a public stance or not.
Right.
They can still recant on that and use
Correct.
them if they'd like to.
Correct.
right?
And that
Yeah.
actually happened in Haldimand County recently.
Yeah, and I guess that's my
yes.
that's what I'm saying is, if we're not suggesting that she's accepting the powers, they're given to her. Whether she decides to use them or not is up to her. And whether we decide, we say, hey, please don't use them, that doesn't matter. She can still use them when
So
she
the
wants
mayors actually have to sign on to the housing target. So if they don't agree to that, they don't it's kind of moot, right? So they have to agree to that.
to. Okay, thank you.
That's my understanding
Is
of
that-
it. Ashley did a lot more thorough research than I did on this. But I just wanted to make sure that was crystal clear for everybody because I got the vibe that people just thought we weren't, because we were against it as a collective, as council, that we didn't have them anymore. We still do. Correct. This is the way the legislation is written. Correct. You're supposed to sign on to a target. There is like a letter. There is.
I haven't seen any documentation yet for me to sign and for housing. It may come yet, but to date, I haven't seen anything.
There's been other councils that have done that. So there was a situation in Haldeman County where basically as a collective, the mayor rejected the powers, then accepted them again. Like basically these are public statements, and they did it through signing onto there was letters followed by there was letters sent out followed by this introduction of this piece. So maybe we have not received them, but I would follow up on with that, because my understanding is that that was followed up upon, and maybe the letters were only followed upon in certain areas, but that was my understanding.
So it's to date, I haven't seen any sign-ons from the province. We have received correspondence from them following the initial release in April that the Strong Mayor powers may come forward. But I have not seen anything that says we need to sign on to any certain targets. But there is a few other powers that have been given to the mayor that are outside of the provincial prescribed priorities. And those are like appoint or dismiss the township CAO, the org structure. There's certain municipal department heads that are under statutory declaration. So those are separate of what can be reorganized, creating of committees of council, assigning functions, assigning chairs, vice chairs. So those are just some examples of items that fall outside of the housing area. And then the budget as well is another topic that the three of them from our review, the three of them being administrative section, the provincial prescribed priority section, and then the budget section, they don't entirely align or make sense in why there's certain powers that have been granted and not to other things. But there are duties that the mayor has now. The budget is one that I will outline again, that it will have to change to ensure that we're following the new legislation. Otherwise, we won't be following the legislation.
Okay, anyone else? Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor Getz. No, Councilor Brodenhagen brought up a couple of good points. So there actually is a third option. And in my opinion, it should have been that for anybody new powers. So the mandate was given beginning of this term. This is a pretty significant change. We're lucky we have a great mayor. Some mayors may not be that great. Probably calling a by-election and vacating the seat probably be the proper way to do it, and that is a third option. So there are other options to, and then if they're confident they're going to get reelected, then they get reelected. If not, then because it's pretty significant, I would say, with the clerk, briefly speaking with her in my reading multiple times and the dozen links that come along with this. Yeah, it looks like a moving target. I'm hearing there's changes already. It's kind of like what happened in the planning there a year ago. So it looks like it's going to be a wild ride. My biggest concern is public records and public facing decisions. As much of that, I don't want to see a staff burdened by a bunch of MFIPA requests for anything that's done, if there's anything done. As much as possible needs to be easily publicly facing, in my opinion, at least. So that'll be in the regs or decided by, I guess, the mayor and senior staff, but that needs to happen, because the worst thing we want to do is have a Wilmot situation where a bunch of stuff's for Stratford or a bunch of stuff go on in the background, because legally, in a few ways, council is also responsible, personally liable for some of these decisions, especially servicing Say, for example, and I know this won't happen here, staff has exited. You know, do we know if all the common law and employment law is still in place, or is that changed? Will there be lawsuits? And like I'm just saying in general, speaking in Ontario, it's big financial. It's you know, there's a lot to it that I don't think is clear for anybody, and so that's just my comment on it. It seems out of place. It would have been better suited for the beginning of a term. So, yeah, so for me, it's just public rollout in the social, you know, whether it's through social media or a website. It sounds like there's something set up on the website that as much as possible, in my opinion, needs to come out and be easily accessible by the public so they can ask it questions if they have any questions. So, thank you.
Yes, so the decisions are on our website, and the intention is that they will be posted on the website. The directives are more specific to something that the mayor is wanting a senior staff member to do. So there's certain staff members that the direction can go towards. So for example, like our crossing guard would not be able to have a directive given to them because it's specific in research and more so around research, or advising them or directing them to carry on with a certain function, hiring of a position, or I'll just use that as an example. Those are directives that are not currently posted or are not intended to currently be posted online. I'll make that more confusing.
So there's no plan to, because if, for example, I were to ask for chickens, right, we would have a group discussion and we go ahead. So I know that there's these parallel lanes running with the strong marrow powers for development. So none of those would be captured as previously were with council requests, like through, like, it sounds like there's not going to be anything on an agenda ever about any powers that are exercised for any of the levels or parallel courses. Is that correct?
So it depends what the
Or do we know yet? Sorry.
example would be. Yeah, some of them are too hypothetical, but the decisions are made and those are posted publicly. The directives may make their way back to council, and same with the decision. So the decision that's made, it is public on our website, so I can speak about it. There is a decision to remove the accounting supervisor position from the org structure and create a deputy treasurer position. So that, as an example, the mayor has the authority to restructure the organizational chart, which was done, but council still has a responsibility then to appoint the deputy treasurer, because the deputy treasurer falls into one of the statutory positions that the mayor is not able to hire or fire.
So the requirement for council of the whole being the employment committee is gone now, or is that just for CAO, or is it up to discretion of the mayor of the time? Sorry, a lot of questions. We might as well
That's
get them
okay.
out. There'll be more.
No, that's okay. I'll try to answer all of them. So currently, the in regard to the CAO position, the power and the decision is with the mayor. It hasn't been directed back to council. Committees, there has been no formal change to any committees of council. So it has to be specific, all of council committees. So our committee of adjustment, the personnel committee, court of revision, those are all committees of councils as an examples, and there has not been any change to date regarding those.
Sorry, one final question, and it was something that stuck out, and then I know, again, we're not going to have any problems like that here, but hopefully not in the future ever either, going when I'm long past council. But so it looks like there's a level of immunity for decisions made with these new powers. Is there a scope that you're aware of with that, or did you have a chance to get that deep? Legal immunity to decision making?
I haven't had a chance to dig that deep.
Okay.
I think at this point, sort of the regulation is so new, none of this is checked.
There is a webinar that I was able to watch, and it might be helpful to send that to all of council. And it's from 3 municipalities who have already got the strong mayors and how each of them handled what they need to do going forward. But it was very informative, and I know Ashley's been watching a lot of webinars with different groups in the last month too to find out all the information that she's finding. So if you want that webinar, get Ashley to send it to you, and it is a good watch.
About 2 hours long, but I will forward it on to council members.
Hey, Hugh?
Yeah, no, great report. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot more on them in that. And just my comment on it, I think this is a real slap in the face of our veterans. We had a democratic election. We have roles and responsibilities, and the change of them midway through the year instead of keeping this until 2026, I think it is. So,
Anyone else? No? Okay. Hopefully, my biggest fear is the budget, and we're going to get a little creative so that council can still participate. And I'm hoping that it goes well. So as we do the process, we will talk more about it, how it can happen and what can evolve, but the budget falls on the mayor, and that's one thing I can't delegate. They won't let me delegate, and it just is a little worrisome that it's all going to come at me. So hopefully we can work around that. And like I said, we have come up with a couple creative ideas, and we'll keep you informed when we have our visioning meeting and what will happen there. So there's no more comments or questions. We do have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Strong Mayor Powers CLE-2025-15 prepared by the Deputy Clerk and Manager of Legislative Services / Municipal Clerk dated May 21st, 2025 for information. Moved by Jeremy, second by Jerry. All in favor? Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Bob.
So I know we have a budget visioning session in July. Given that the province has granted these undemocratic powers to the mayors, what's the point of going through the visioning session for a municipality when mayor can just do what they wish?
So my point is that I still want everyone to bring forward what they see needing done in their ward or throughout the township. Even though council or the budget committee cannot make motions, I'm hoping that we can still have the discussion around this table, whether yes, it's a great idea, no, it's not. And from what people tell me, then I'm hoping to find what needs to be brought forward. So if someone wants, I'll use a sidewalk because we already did that once. If someone brings a sidewalk and they think, yeah, we really need this, and 5 of you around the table say, yep, I think that's a great idea, that's an indicator to me, okay, then I need to take that to staff. But if only one person brings that up and no one else comments, then that to me is, okay, no, maybe that's not one that I need to take to staff. But I'd still like council to have some kind of an input. I'm a little uncomfortable that this has got thrown at me, but that's what the government wants, and I can't change it. So like I said, there are creative ways that we can work it. So that's kind of why I'd still like to have that visioning session if possible. Okay. Okay, thanks, Ashley. Now we'll move to finance, and the first item is our 2025 tax rates. Paula, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Agate. So before council tonight is the 2025 tax rates. The bylaw 7 of 2025 was passed in for the final budget for 2025, and there's just a couple of things that I wanted to note, and it was alluded to earlier in the meeting regarding the assessments being frozen. So the assessments are still frozen by the province at 2016 values. That doesn't mean that MPAC's not out there assessing changes and stuff, but they're just assessing them at 2016 values. When a reassessment's gonna happen, no idea, really. The province has initiated consultation regarding Ontario's property taxation system. So that kinda makes me think that it may be frozen and past 2026, but I don't know. Haven't heard anything yet, so I'm not too hopeful we'll reassess in 2026. So for the tax rates, the upper tier is required to pass a bylaw annually regarding the tax ratios for each tax class. That was passed by Perth County on May 1st. All ratios remain status quo to the 2024 ratios, with the exception of a new class, the aggregate extraction class, and that ratio is the 1.602351. Now, the attached bylaw for consideration tonight sets the tax rates for 2025 to raise the approved township tax levy of 11.2 million, as well as the 2025 special rate area levy for the banquet hall for 2025, and that's in the amount of 188,000. There was an error as the amendment at the beginning of the meeting on schedules A and B for the landfill ratios, the HF tax class, and the VT tax class, the aggregate extraction. I had erroneously taken them to 4 decimals. Those are actually 6 decimals. So that has been updated and changed the rates slightly on that. So that is the tax rate bylaw for 2025. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Paula. Questions, Jeremy?
Where did those aggregate extraction properties fit before? If this is a new tax class, they were in there somewhere previously,
They were in industrial.
so they've actually received a decrease in their tax payable.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks. How many properties would we have like that?
There's a handful, maybe 3, 4.
Yeah, okay,
There's not
thanks.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mayor Gitz. So I wasn't following the county. Normally it's out when we have ours and we can kind of make that final number. What was, if I could ask what the county was at for their final number this year? Do we know that offhand or no? Is it done yet?
Oh, for the levy increase for the county?
It was long, right?
It was 11.3%, if
So
I'm recalling properly, but
11.3?
I don't have that exact number off the top of my head. So.
It was proposed at that, and then I think it went back to the original 13.
Did it?
Because we asked staff to go back and look for some places where we could save some money. And when the report came back, it shifted the money to another department. And they did propose spots where it could be saved, but their recommendation was not to save it, it was to shift it, and council decided that they were gonna go back and take the original recommendation that was proposed. I think it was 13.
Thank you. And do we have a final number then? Everybody will see on their final tax bills this year then with that number included? Sorry, I'm really putting you on the spot. I apologize.
Yeah,
This
you're
came to
really
me now.
asking me tough questions. Right. I don't have the final combined number
Okay.
for county education and township. I
And-
can certainly send that out to.
I'm just used to
council.
seeing that with the announcement, right? So it'd be nice to have that and everybody in the township and county have it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we had the township ones at the time of our budget, but
All right,
The-
thanks very much.
adding the 2 in, we'll get that out to you.
I'll not ask any more questions.
Okay, other questions? If not, we have a motion that council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled 2025 Tax Rates FIN-2025-09, prepared by the Manager of Financial Services / Treasurer, dated May 21st, 2025, for information, and that bylaw 23-2025, being a bylaw to adopt the annual tax rates for the year of 2025, be given 3 readings. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Hugh, second by Bob. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and the next report is tax sale registration. Paula?
Thank you. So we have the 2025 tax sale registration report, and I'm happy to note that in 2024, we had sent 16 reminder letters for the ones that were possibly going for tax sale registration. And we have established payment plans or received payment in full for all of those properties. So there won't be any properties registered for 2025, as well as the 2 properties that were registered for tax sale in 2024. We have received payment in full for those as well. So there's currently no properties for tax sale right now. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions of the report? Hugh?
No, just one question on real tax. Is that like a private corporation? So it's nothing to do, it's not like impact, it's totally, and almost their job is to do paperwork to these people, tell them that they would have to pay up or else.
Yes.
This, that's my
Yes, through the mayor. Real Tax is a private company, and they were contracted through the township to process the tax sale properties. There's a lot of legislated deadlines that you have to ensure you meet, or the process resets and you're back to square one. So a company was consulted and hired for that process to monitor those.
Okay, anyone else? Just a comment, Paula, that's great news to hear that all those have been cleared up, and thank you for all that you've done to work with those people and help them out to make payments or try to figure it out. So we do have a motion that says Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Tax Sale Registration prepared by the Manager of Financial Services - Treasurer dated May 21st, 2025 for information. Moved by Hugh, second by Andrew, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thanks Paula. Then we'll move to Public Works, and we have the tender for a supply of a pickup truck. Jake, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mayor Agates. This one covers tender results for the facility maintenance coordinator's pickup truck. We received a couple of valid submissions for this one, with Trillium Ford coming in with a low bid at $54,357, exclusive of HST. We'd look to award the tender to them in this case. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
Okay, questions of the report? Seeing no questions, we have a motion that Council of the Township of Perth East receive the report entitled Tender Results PW-2025-06, supply of 1 2023 or newer half-ton pickup PUB-2025-15, dated May 21st, 2025, prepared by the Manager of Public Works for information, and further that Council award the tender PW-2025-06 for the supply of 1 2023 or newer half-ton pickup truck to Trillium Ford Lincoln Limited for the tendered price of $54,357 exclusive of HST. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Jake. Okay, we have no reports from Building, no reports from the Parks and Recreation, no reports from Fire. We have no correspondence. So now we're down to council and committee reports. My mayor's meeting log, you got that the last month where I had been. Are there any verbal reports from any of the committees or boards anyone sits on? Jerry?
Just a quick one from the OPP, Perth County OPP board. One of the main topics we talked about was the road closures that happened during the winter. There's a number of communities that have automatic road sign closes through whichever work. I know this year we had a number of instances. There's a couple bad stretches where I know townships boring signs from different townships for road closures, so people driving on the roads. And so, yeah, we're looking at perhaps seeing what we come up with. Obviously, it's going to cost money, but those automatic signs, it certainly helps. So it was a good discussion on that. Yeah, that's all I have for that one.
Okay, anyone else? If not, we need a motion to accept Jerry's verbal report. Moved by Amanda, second by Hugh, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're down to bylaws. We have 3 bylaws that are read a first, second, third, and final reading. The first one is bylaw 23-2025, being a bylaw to adopt the tax levies for 2025, and that was item 8.4.1 tonight. The second one is bylaw 24-2025, a bylaw to implement a backyard chicken pilot licensing program, and that was item 8.3.3 tonight. And the third one is bylaw 25-2025, being a bylaw to authorize sale of township land, and that was Victoria Street, Part 6, on Plan 44R 5683. So I need a mover and a seconder for the first, second, third, and final readings of these bylaws. Moved by Amanda, second by Jeremy. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any notice of motions? Any other business? Any announcements? We do not have a closed session. So we do have a motion that the bylaw 26-2025, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Township of Perth East at its regular meeting held on May 21st, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time. Moved by Hugh, second by Jerry. All in favor? Carried. And the last motion of the night is that we adjourn at 8:11 p.m. Moved by Amanda, second by Jeremy. All in favor? Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.